And back in the era about 10 years ago, where we used to see a lot of interim changes from either developers or from municipalities for extensions of infrastructure, primarily at that time for age-restricted housing, they were put in the situation that they explained that they felt like a de facto zoning board of appeals. They didn't like that. So when the new priority funding area statute took effect in 2013, their stated intent, there's actually a cover letter on the adopted plan that says the purpose of this new map is to make sure that no state agency uses the map to determine the consistency of a project. So there's sort of this love-hate relationship with maps, and we feel a little awkward because the terminology priority funding areas would connote that there's some significance to having an area listed as such. So again, if it should be more meaningful, if you believe that, that's something that we'd want to pursue that discussion with the committee members. Right now, again, the purpose was sort of to defang the use of the map by agencies, and I know particularly at that point it was DEEP with the way that they interpreted the map for clean water funding purposes. You know, the whole purpose, again, was to make sure that there's a balance brought to the equation and not to make decisions based on a color map. But based on what Bruce indicated before, there's always some unintended consequences. And what we have recognized, and I don't want to say it's, you know, predominant, but we've recognized now that state agencies implement the priority funding area requirements, which is, it basically says in law, any agency that undertakes a growth-related project shall do it in a priority funding area unless it goes through this exception process for projects outside of those areas. And that exception process, again, focuses on the municipal plan. Well, the legislature clearly wanted more of a emphasis on municipal plans. In fact, so much so that there's now a real penalty if you don't have a robust municipal plan, one that's updated at least once every 10 years. There's now the law says you're now ineligible for discretionary state funding. So we recognize that if there's more importance being put on the municipal plans, we as state agencies ought to be referencing them more often. And as Bruce indicated on that one slide with the 5 criteria, you saw that the only time an agency references the local plan is when it's outside of a priority funding area. But the unintended consequences issue, again, is that the intention was to fuzzy up the map, if you will, so that those type of extensions that were occurring back 10 years ago that had to go through an interim change process through sort of the microscope of vetting it, now are kind of blurred in there because they're part of either a planned area or it touches a larger census block where the project would occur. So in effect, there's no interim change needed. An agency can do that. But the problem is they're not consulting the local plan. So you're working on the fringes, and I think we have recognized that there can be concerns at the local level that while it's nice to see that you have a larger priority funding area, it just may be sort of hitting upon perhaps local community issues, you know, more sensitive issues that need more of a local vetting. So I think the point here is that we feel that any time that we can have more of a discussion about what sort of the community development priorities are and not necessarily having state agencies being able to operate without referencing that, we feel it would be, you know, again, improved coordination, intergovernmental relations, and so forth.